So I wanted to start this with just a few tips, really. We may have never heard of this before. No one told us. But there is a key, absolute key that I think is going to be probably the thing I'll press on the most. What is that? Grip. How do you hold your instrument? So if I'm going to use a hammer, I know I'm going to grab a hammer by the handle and I'm going to swing it in a way that actually works. I'm not going to grab it that, you could actually get hurt. Using the instrument, there's a way to grip it. There's a way to hold it. There's a way to move it that is going to be more efficient. With a pencil or a drawing tool, something really interesting happened. When we first grabbed a crayon or a pencil for the first time, we probably were doing it like this and doing this type of gesture and motion. And you were probably about maybe 10, 12 months old, 16 months old. And then somebody slowly started telling you, no, do it like this. And you kept on fighting, no, this feels better. Until little by little they told you, no, you're supposed to do it like this. And whichever way that is, it shifted to a motion, a grip that is meant for writing. So we could get into a philosophical discussion. Well, writing is kind of drawing. Well, when you really want to take advantage of the tool for drawing, go where the pros show you. So if you look at any master, Da Vinci or Picasso, you name it, this is how they were holding it. How do you do that? Let's go over it. Grab your pencil. You're going to take your index finger, whether you're righty or lefty, you're going to take your index finger, you're going to place your pencil right there, and you're just going to hold it with your thumb. Now, for a little extra support, you can put the middle finger and the index finger. Now, do that, and go ahead and feel like, wait, wow, that actually feels odd. Now, it makes sense what he was just talking about, that posture, because this doesn't feel right. I have to stand or move my arm away from my torso so I can actually make these lines. Now, if I want more vertical marks or more horizontal, meaning finer or thicker, we'll go over that. It actually shifts what it can do. But here's the key. I'm going to go ahead and do this. You don't have to, but you could try it. So I'm going to grab a darker pencil. Let's go with so you could see it. I'm going to go with a 5B. So if I grab my pencil like I'm writing, now some of us, I've seen students hold pencils like this close to the tip and really, really hard where you could see knuckles. The pressure, it's like almost so hard. It actually hurts after a few minutes. So even if you hold it at the tip or a little longer, the range of motion for drawing, notice that I'm moving my wrist. There's very little motion I could do with my fingers here, and I would almost have to do everything with my wrist. And if I'm leaning my elbow for support, then I only have a certain range of motion. If you switch that very easily to this underhand or overhand grip, which is with that index thumb that I just showed you, notice with a little movement of the finger how much coverage I can have. Now, is that the fingers or is that the wrist? Because I can actually move my fingers and create a range of motion already without moving my wrist. When I move my wrist and my fingers, I'm actually doubling the range of motion. That's very different from you having to move your whole arm with a very tight grip. What you need to do, and that is my main goal really, as we begin with drawing foundations, get really comfortable. Now, you may not be comfortable right now holding it further than this, but I would really encourage you to, at the end of these sessions, push to see how far can you hold this pencil and draw your lines. And that's what we're about to do next. So for exercise 1, I want you to grab your sketchbook. I'm going to be using a 2B pencil. So there's different types of pencils, and we'll go over that. They're lighter, darker. This one, the 2B, should be right at the middle. It gives you just enough graphite that is dark enough and also soft enough where you can actually smudge it. And that's what we're going to use for this. So basically any regular pencil, number 2. I'm going to go ahead and move this and have just a piece of paper. It's a sketch, but you can actually do this in your sketchbook. And what is the first thing I want you to do? Remember, catch yourself. I'm not there to see you, but I am looking at the screen. And if somehow you just subconsciously switch over, pay attention, catch yourself, make a reminder, make sure you're using this grip the entire time. Now, if this is how you usually use your pencil to draw, then the next thing would be to hold it longer. As long as you can, really. And first thing you're going to feel is, well, I lose a little bit of control. Well, that's the whole point. You're going to want to gain control of your tool with this type of grip. So there we have it. Number 1, first exercise, I want you to think of, there's a few words on the screen: line, shape, form, value, color, space, and texture. So these are the list of fundamental elements in art. Today we're going to deal with just the first one, line. So when I ask you, what is a line? Well, a line is a motion of consecutive markings, in this case graphite on pencil. It could be a line on the road. It could be a line with a stick in the sand. But we kind of understand what a line is. And in this case, for drawing, just a mark on pencil. But how much farther can we take that? Well, we could start with let me make a point very quickly here. I'm actually going to do a row of elements here. So if you have the top of your paper, I want you to leave enough space for 4 things that are going to follow underneath it. What do I mean by that? I'm going to take a horizontal line. So there's one type of line right there, a horizontal line. We have a vertical line. Now here's where I want you to begin to really get to know your grip. Get to know this is what will eventually become and develop into your style. It's the grip, the way you're holding the instrument. And you're controlling it. Maybe you feel like it's controlling you. It's going to be that beautiful, hello, nice to meet you grip that is going to make it yours. So play with it. Don't pay attention to a few things. How hard you're gripping it, how tight, how much pressure you're putting on it, and loosen it up. Be loose. So once again, horizontal line, vertical line. What's another type of line? Diagonal. So now these are not ruler perfect lines. I'm just trying to give you the general idea of, now they may be a little bit thicker and I'm going over them more than once. So we have horizontal, vertical, diagonal, and curve. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw a curve line. And there you have it. Is there another type of line beyond these? Well, if there is, it's a combination or modification of these. How horizontal, how vertical. We know where diagonals can go, 360 degrees, and curves. Then we shift the curve into more of one of these. So a combination of these is going to give you that. But where do we go from line? The next one is shape. So if I have a horizontal line, what kind of shape would horizontal lines give me? Combination of horizontal and verticals. I have a square. Go ahead and draw your square. Now I mentioned your posture, the way you're set up right now, should feel so easy and so comfortable with this new grip that you're using that you should be focusing on how that feels. And you may be struggling with, oh my gosh, this horizontal line, it's very difficult for me. I'm going to have to rotate, or sometimes you want to rotate your paper so you can draw that line. Try to keep your paper steady. Try not to walk around or move your arm in awkward positions, but just adjust your posture so you can deliver that, in this case, 2 horizontal, 2 vertical lines. So we have vertical line. Let's go ahead and draw 1, 2, and now I'm going to close them with 2 horizontals. So a combination of verticals and horizontals, I can actually create a rectangle. So I know these are concepts, but this is when you truly understand this, there is no place further than this you can go, meaning backwards. It all starts here. And when you really truly understand this, you can master it. That's where I'm getting at. So really just give it a chance. This maybe seem like a little too elemental, but it is where I want you to really take it to all the way back to basics, and at your own level, push. If you're pushing for perfect straight diagonal lines, then that's what you would want to do. In this case, a diagonal line. With my new grip, I'm going to draw a diagonal line this way, and I'm going to do a combination with the diagonal in the opposite way. And yep, you guessed it, plus a horizontal line, I have a triangle. With a curved line, I'll just continue that curve, and now I have a circle. So here we have lines. With lines, we created shapes. Can anyone guess where we're going next? With shapes, now we're going to do combination of lines. So I start with my horizontals, connect my verticals, and I'm going to do something here, add a diagonal. So I'm now combining a couple of extra lines that are not horizontal or vertical, but diagonal. So we're basically, what would be the word there? Compounding by mixing variations of just these simple elemental lines. Creating a square, and from the square we now have a simple cube. Now I could get actually more fun than this, because we just went from two-dimensional to the three-dimensional illusion, and that's what really drawing is all about. I just created an illusion for you that there's a box here, and you see how simply we did that just by combining lines. So here we have the two verticals, and I could also make this a box, but what if I combine it with a circle and a curved line? I now have a cylinder. Can you see it? So the rectangle can become a cube, a box, rectangular box, or a cylinder. This one, same thing. We have a triangle, and if I'm going to do two of them here. So if I have my diagonal lines with my horizontal line, and then add one more diagonal at a sharper angle and another diagonal, closing this out, we're beginning to create perspective, but I just created a pyramid. And shifting, so we're dealing with the angle now of these diagonal lines. But also, if I were to combine diagonals, let's go ahead and do it the opposite way. I don't want to confuse you here, but we have a diagonal, we have another diagonal, and we're trying to create that triangle, but instead of a horizontal, I could also add a circle. Now, it's not a circle, it's a circle in perspective, so it's more of an oval. But we create a cone. And everybody knows what we're going to do here. A circle becomes, and the way we would do that, we would just add a curve like an equator and another curved line, creating the illusion of a sphere or a ball. There you have it. Now these are the simple ways. If you break it down, the Mona Lisa, when you're drawing your sketch for the Mona Lisa, you're using these types of lines to create some of these shapes. Obviously, they become a little more organic, but generally speaking, you would begin to find some of these shapes in it, and that's what it's all about. Breaking down the forms into those simplified shapes that are created with lines in order to create and draw anything you can imagine, and anything you can see and imagine, really. There's one step after this, and this may take a little longer than, so we may not do all of them, but let's start with, in this case, the opposite side here. So we started with line, and I want to loosen up my grip now a little more. Still notice I'm holding it. I want to hold it a little longer. There's my circle. No, it's not perfect, or is it? We started with lines, went to shape, form. When you work with value, we're going to actually begin to create the next word there. With value, I can actually tell you which side is light and which side is shadow. So notice that I'm beginning to add, and I don't even have to have shading. I could do this with lines. So instead of, I could do this with just hatching and create a few extra lines that are a little more separate and even lighter. And I could draw sort of a cast shadow here. And all of a sudden, if I were to add a line that is going to create sort of the illusion of space, where this is sitting, we just went through line, shape, form. Adding value immediately created a sense of space. And believe it or not, the type of line that I created here, it also created a texture. So you could tell if this is a wooden ball or a metal ball or a crystal ball. So that's also going to be defined by what quality of marks or lines I decide to do that. And then obviously we have a feeling of space. This is not floating. This is sitting on a table. Let's do one more. Let's go ahead and do this one here. So starting with those horizontal, vertical, adding the diagonals. And now I have a source of light. Let's go ahead and say it's coming from this side here. And it's going to hit right there. That means this entire side is in shadow. That means this side over here is sort of mid-tone. And in order for us to, let's make it float. See, I could ask to cast shadow. But if I add a shadow here, actually ran out of space. You can actually, create the illusion that this thing is floating. Floating up in space. So we even see the relationship between this and another illusion which we just created. So going through these steps is going to be the goal of the next 4 weeks. Today, we're going to focus on this. How do we get these really, really under our belt in order for us to begin to really master these? And then from here to the next, and then all of a sudden get over here and feel really, really comfortable. And that's, in a way, I usually say, it's sitting up before we learn to crawl, and then we crawl in order to learn to walk, and then we walk, we'll be running. And that's the idea. So we're going to start with first exercise 1. And I want you to grab a page in your sketchbook maybe, or I'm just setting it up here so you can see it a little clearer. What I want you to do, if you have it and you feel you need to, go ahead and grab a ruler and divide your page into 4. If you're that type of person that needs to be very organized and I want it measured, I want it right in the middle, or you could just divide it with the vertical, and I'm just eyeballing it in a horizontal. Now it seems like I'm actually working really light, but I want you guys to see the work actually. So I hope you could see it clearly. My lines are not that thick, but there you have it. What are we going to do here? It's really just an exercise to test. We're going to take your grip for a test ride and really, really look at paying attention at how it feels, really. And what am I talking about? Number 1, we have 4 squares or 4 rectangles here. What I want you to do is really make sure you have your right grip, you have the right pencil in hand, holding the pencil a little longer maybe. Pay attention to where your inclination to hold it is. You're going to want to hold it really close and really be in total control. But I want you to loosen it up, loosen up your lines. Remember, this is just an exercise. And the first line I want you to do is we're going to fill up this box right here with vertical lines that go from top to bottom. And you're going to try to put them as close to each other as possible. So notice that immediately, oh, I'm leaning my hand this way. And the motion is going to be, is it going to be my pencil here and straight down? Or am I going to angle it a little bit? Is it going to be more vertical? So I'm going to have, instead of an under grip, I'm going to use a little bit more of an over grip in order to capture and get that line like I wanted. Now, what about the pressure? I've been talking about the pressure. Keep it light. What about the speed? What about the pace? So we have direction. I want you to pay attention to pressure. Also the length of your grip. How long is your grip here? And then the pace. And here we go. It's very meditative, by the way. I would go as far to say is also pay attention to your breathing. Are you breathing? Don't forget to breathe. Sometimes, oh, I'm about to draw a line and we hold our breath, get so tight, and then we wonder, why is that line not exactly like I want it? You want looseness here. Now, some of us may be working really fast. Now, notice that you see my pinky here, and I'm going to try to switch over. And what you see is here my pinky, and I lay down, let's see if you can see it here. So I lay down my pinky instead of anchoring my wrist and smearing the page all over. What I do is I put my pinky down and then I kind of guide the motion. So you see it here. I use my pinky. Sometimes you use the side of your hand. I hope you can see that there. And that actually feels, okay, that's more support. And that's how I put my pencil down and then follow my line. So whether it's your pinky, whether it's 2-3 fingers, I've seen that as well. You hold 2-3 fingers and then you just put the pencil down and kind of just draw it with the guide of the fingers. Or most of the time I see the wrist just anchored down, placed on the paper, and that gives you kind of more support. Sometimes, and I would really encourage you, what about if elbow, wrist, and pinky, all of them off? What kind of line do you draw then? And that's a big challenge if you've never done it before, because all of a sudden you're trying to understand, whoa, how do I get control? And right now the lines may not look as vertical as I would want them to, like ruler, like if I were using a ruler. But remember, this is the practice that is going to make you stronger and stronger. If you're going through this exercise and not having the patience to go and do the checklist, my pressure, am I really squeezing so hard that I can actually lose a little bit of feeling on? Or it's more about feeling almost the weight of the paper. You're holding the pencil so light. I'm sorry, the paper. You can feel the actual weight of the pencil. And now you can actually feel that the motion comes from your shoulder. And if your shoulder, the way it's moving, your elbow as well, it also feels, well, the way I'm standing or sitting, my torso, all of it is involved. Sometimes even my legs, the way I set my legs on the floor, like the way I stand or the way I'm sitting, how I allow my torso to turn just a little bit or angle the shoulders in order to get that line and get that range of motion. And that's what it's all about, really discovering what kind of qualities of line can you really be able to deliver And lastly, how close can you put these lines to each other? Here you could see. See if you can see a little closer. There you go. They're not perfect, but when you're sketching and you need a vertical line, you want this quality in it. This line has personality. It has character. It has expression. And believe it or not, it will be descriptive. It will absolutely look honest, would be the word I used here. The idea is to make your lines honest. Another word would be eloquent. Because with drawing, that's kind of what we're doing. We draw an idea, and when someone else looks at it, it's almost like we were talking to them with lines. So we talk with them with words. So sometimes our words, they could be eloquent. Our lines should be the same way. And usually, the way you speak, simple to the point, it's usually the best. If you're, all over the place, it's a great metaphor for these for this type of exercise with lines. All right, here's the kicker. So we just did this top to bottom vertical lines. Now I want you to, right next to it, and you can actually put a little marker right at the top here. I'm going to put it. See this little arrow that I did there? So I remember that I started at this corner going from top to bottom, and I went this way. And you're going to want to remember that. Sometimes we forget to mark it, like I did here. I'll put it a little closer so you can see. That's just a little arrow showing the direction of the exercise. Now we're going to go from the bottom to the top. So pay close attention how this line felt, and oh my gosh, I just finished this whole thing and now I got to do this. Well, how are you adjusting your grip, your pressure, your pace, your posture, your motion to deliver this line? And we're going to do the same thing. Lines that are vertical, going from bottom to top. And if you want to go a little extra challenge, notice that we started also from left to right. You could start right to left, kind of the opposite direction. Those are little challenges you could give yourself. And somehow, because now I'm not using my pinky, I'm actually using these middle knuckles. This line, and it's only like 2 of them, I feel like I could really draw a very, very straight line as I follow the previous one. And I'm just kind of stabbing at the paper, running straight up. And it kind of feels a little more in control, but not as, maybe a little cleaner. Let me go ahead and zoom in. I'm going to zoom in just a little more so you guys can see square by square. I'm going to move this so you can see that. So there we are. And now I just noticed it started getting diagonal a little bit. Now that I see it up close or through the camera. So notice that, oops, yeah, I guess the way we angle our head, sometimes we lose, like I was kind of starting to bend my neck and kind of adjusting to the line instead of adjusting the line to me. And most of the time what you see is turning the paper. So you're always going to be doing that comfortable, easy line, which most of the time is sort of a diagonal or almost horizontal type of line, because it seems efficient. But what I want you to do here is every single line possible that you ever need, when you run into it, you got it. I know which are my strengths and I know where I need more work. Now here I could actually go a little bit faster. Like it almost feels like I could speed up my pace just a little bit. And I could still get away with really straight. Is that what I'm looking for? Straight lines? Is that... What kind of accuracy am I looking for here? Is it the space between the lines? Is it the straightness of the line? Is it the thickness of the line? Is it the smoothness of the line? All these different things. Never losing track of your grip, the pressure, the pace. What I want to do here is this. Horizontal lines. Now notice that if I angle my pencil and it's almost flat, it's going to give me a thicker line. So I want to kind of stand it up. It could be, in a way, perpendicular would give you the sharpest line. And for that, I would have to literally stand up and deliver a line that is going to kind of go across my body. But this, now again, I'm using the knuckle of my pinky here to kind of guide. So as my support, it's this knuckle of my pinky. Some of you may go back to the pinky. Some of you may go back to the wrist. But it's really dissecting, like, this, or which is the way that I need to be sitting, standing, that I need to set up my paper, that I need to hold my grip. Let me see if I can hold it even longer. What I've been saying, you should try. Notice how much cleaner and smoother the lines get. You actually have so much lightness in the actual delivery of this line that you can begin to understand why you would use it. And when you need darker lines, that's when you shift your grip a little closer so you can put a little more pressure. Not on the actual squeezing of the pencil, but from the pencil to the paper. How much pressure can I apply to the paper here? Let's see. So my line is gonna get darker. And obviously I need to squeeze a little bit harder, go a little bit slower. But you could see the range of lines. And most importantly, understanding how you manage every aspect of delivering a line. Now my line is getting a little flat, so it's getting a little thicker. Right now I'm actually having obviously my shoulder, but my elbow and wrist and all fingers, nothing is supporting. So everything is off the table or paper, and I'm just floating everything up in space, following that motion. And I've done this line. This is probably my most comfortable line, which is left to right, horizontal lines. Feels very comfortable. And I'm going to add that little marker, which will remind me this exercise was left to right, horizontal lines from top to bottom. Next box, I'm going to go from the bottom to the top, horizontal, but this time right to left. So hopefully you will get a sense of, oh my gosh, horizontal line, but there's a completely different feel. And really get to know your lines for the first time. It's like really sometimes meeting them for the first, like, oh my gosh, look at all this personality you have, and it's making it tougher. Or, oh wow, so easygoing, so smooth. I like this type of line. And really getting to know the types of pressure, the types, by knowing the directions and the motions of those directions, paying attention to the pressure, the quality of the line, and obviously how it looks. Is there much difference? I'm actually trying to add a little more, so no support. And was I using support here? A little bit, a tiny bit, with my knuckle again, but just almost, I would say, accidental, like not really thinking about it. And those are the things you want to catch yourself with. Like, how was I doing this before? How would I have gone about it? With that typical writing grip, you would probably be going just like this, where you don't even see. And even checking, well, actually that feels better. It's only because you're so used to it. But remember, main difference between writing and drawing is the grip. And I hope by the end of these drawing sessions that you will appreciate that. How gripping and holding your tool the right way is going to make all the difference, or at least a big, big difference that we may have not realized before. There we have it. So we have a quick exercise of just verticals and horizontals. Pretty much a standard pace I kept throughout the entire exercise. I should have mentioned, you're going to hear a noise. I'm just sharpening my pencil. And I would urge you, keep a sharp pencil. That's another thing. Your tool, getting to know the tip, what kind of lines you need, what kind of sharpness, and what kind of quality of line is going to deliver. A sharp pencil, your best friend. So let me just zoom out a little bit. Here we are. So I have on the back of the page, really. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. And I know this may get, we're doing that again. It's a little tedious. Well, it's going to make you stronger. Just like any exercise, the more you do it with intention and patience, the better you're going to get at that thing. Don't just do it faster or just to get it done, but really try to find the things that in your drawing and what you're pursuing in your drawing could give you new clues to really enjoy it more and give you more satisfaction, more success, that success feeling of, wow, that's exactly the kind of line I wanted. Okay, so what are we going to do here? We did verticals and horizontals. Now we're going to diagonals. Now this is where I really, no matter how many times I do this exercise, here I always find that I remember something that I forgot, that I said I wasn't going to forget, that I wanted to remember. Or I do find something new, like, whoa. And it's about that feeling. First one, we're going to go top to bottom, right to left. So this direction here. So I'm going to say about 45 degrees. What does that mean? It's not corner to corner, but there's a nice angle. It's definitely not a vertical. And it's nowhere near a horizontal. And now these lines are going to get longer. So that also feels interesting. Ooh, when that line was short, now that it's longer, I actually feel more control. Can I make it a little bit thinner, a little bit sharper? Do I want to make my lines a little more expressive, meaning I could go thick or thin with the tip of the pencil or the side of the pencil? So once again, I'm using almost my knuckle here. Not this first, second knuckle in my pinky, but here I actually find myself using this and having to kind of support it on that knuckle to kind of guide me. And it feels really comfortable. using a very, very light pressure. If I grab the pencil longer, let's see what would happen there. The line gets a lot lighter. The pressure gets really, really comfortable. So meaning almost from 1 to 10 is a 1. The whole weight of the pencil is pretty much doing the job. And the lightness of the pencil and the line, I could see that it most likely, it's what I would want. Notice how long I'm holding the pencil, all the way at the tip. And sometimes you have pencil extenders that would make it even longer. And that little bit of loss of control is what you want in your drawings. So there's my line. And yes, I do love this. I do feel very comfortable with it. You could see that the result, the actual quality of the line, and how easy that felt. You have several options here. And I'm just presenting a few, but you can imagine I could go top to bottom, left to right, but I could go bottom to top in the same angle, and it would be the same diagonal. But I could go in the opposite direction. So I want you to find possibilities for future exercises. Here I'm going to keep it simple. We went top to bottom from right to left. Now I'm going to switch it over to from bottom to top, maintaining that same angle. So bottom to top, and I'm going from right to left. So starting at this corner, I'm still holding the pencil all the way at the end. And you can see how light my lines are, but also a beautiful quality. And I can actually follow the previous line, my previous line as a guide. I could see it so much easier. Oop. Lost a little bit of pace there, lost a little control. Sometimes the paper is bent, or it could throw your pencil a little bit off, but the lightness and the pressure is minimal. The pace, I could go a little bit slower, or how much control do I still have if I go a little bit faster? Notice that I went almost at twice the speed. Can I go even faster than that? Well, that would be a completely different line, but it would be a line that most likely I will use in one of my drawings. One of those really expressionist gestural lines. You're going to need them fast. You're going to need them fast pace. Now I'm going to slow down the pace. Notice I'm not using my pinky or any knuckle. Everything, my wrist and elbow are off any surface, and I'm just following. So notice if there's any curving to your lines, any zigzagging, or usually it's your axis, meaning from the shoulder, what type of motions are you allowing? Is if it's you're leaning the elbow or the wrist, is that what's making your line kind of do a different type of, not straight but curve type of motion? All these little elements, figuring them out and getting to know, getting very familiar with your lines. So there's my little cue, my little arrow that showed me, okay, this exercise was in this direction. Now between this one and this one, I like some qualities here, but this obviously is the one. And sometimes the one we do consistent, the one we're familiar with, we do all the time. Seems like, yeah, I like that one better. Do you really? Have you experimented? Have you tested different ones? And have you given it a chance? Or is it just because we're so used to it that it looks fine when it could probably be better if you tested a different type of direction, a different type of pace? Next ones. Okay, we're going to go from left to right, from the bottom to the top. So this direction, notice how I'm having to bend my wrist already. How would I figure out the motion here to draw this line here? So I could go this way. Wow, it's really really challenging. So me kind of bending the wrist here, am I cheating? Am I looking for this line only without moving my torso? So I'm extending my arm, using my little knuckle here, and looking for a way to deliver a new familiar line. So here's a little bit of that curving that I mentioned before. I could see this line is beginning to curve. It doesn't stay straight this way. So I want to pay attention to that. And how would I adjust my motion, my posture, my pressure, or even the way I'm seeing it? Most times, well, just slowing down a little bit, just doing a checklist. I am holding, again, the pencil all the way at the tip. Putting a little bit of, just a little bit of extra challenge to the line. Now the paper's moving just a little bit, and here we go. We're off. So this was a bit of shorter lines, because all these little lines here were just too quick, too short. So trying to get that angle right. Now they get longer. I get a little bit better feel. And guess what? I went back to my tip of the pinky here, holding, leaning, guiding. Can I do it without it? Let's try. Lift that pinky and just have the pencil, wrist, elbow, everything off. How much control do I have over that line? Now, sometimes it really feels awkward, like, oh my gosh. It's probably because you've never done it before. Have you ever done a line that was diagonal in this direction? Think about it. Most of the times, if you're looking for, you'll go to that exact same motion that you're used to, whoop, to deliver that line. So making yourself a little bit uncomfortable hopefully allows you to discover new things, great things, whether they're great things that you are now putting to use, or new things that now I know how not to do it. Ideally, you would want to study them and find things. So there are some really interesting things in this delivery of line, and I could actually develop a project, a drawing, using these type of lines that are giving me this kind of character. I kind of would want something just because of the way they look. So being able to use that, almost like an ingredient in a recipe. So I still have my arm in this direction. I'm not going this way, kind of pushing my elbow into my body, which also happens. And then kind of moving my body out of the way, so shifting my posture. You don't want that. You want to find that nice, comfortable, painless way of delivering a line. And notice as they got shorter, I lost a little bit of control. But I like this. In terms of pressure, sometimes you forget and you're squeezing so hard until your hand reminds you, hey, something's wrong. It hurts. So we went this direction. Just put a reminder. And here's one last one. So our last rectangle here, we went this direction, this direction, this direction. Now, the next one would be, there's several possibilities. You could go left to right, bottom to top, or right to left, top to bottom. One that I want you to try is this way. So we're going to start here. It's one that you've most likely never done. It's going to be the exact opposite of here. So it's going to start here at the top, right, and it's going to go left towards the bottom. and it's going to go like this. And wow, does it feel awkward right away. So what kind of grip? Again, same, a little longer. I actually went just a little bit shorter to try, like intuitively. I went a little bit shorter, try to get a little more control. So I'm going to go as long as I can again, forcing myself to stay with it. No pinky, no knuckles, no elbow, no wrist. And I'm having to kind of stab. So keeping the lines close is a little more difficult. Ooh, but this is the one. If ever there's a line that I would have to really, really work, and the question is, do I really need to? Yeah, well, if you want the quality of lines, these types of exercise are going to show you. And eventually, the more and more you draw, you won't even realize, well, we're doing all these types of lines all the time. Maybe not in such repetitive fashion, but just one line this way in a drawing, in a portrait. You need this line. So you'll deliver it. And maybe that's the one line that makes you go, something's off. Usually that's what happens. The ones that don't feel comfortable, looks like just, it's not like the others, basically. And you could see it. So how to bring it in? Meaning how to make them all speak the same language. So I also noticed that I'm not coming all the way at the edge. I'm kind of leaving a little space. So let's go a little bit closer to the edge. And it's almost like a stabbing motion. And I mean stabbing the pencil into the paper. That's what it feels. It's not dragging it. It's stabbing it into the paper, which we don't realize, but we do. We actually do. We have to, when we draw, we have to do this motion. And entire drawings could be done with this type of line. Kind of the stabbing into the paper motion. Now there are so many things that give you a beautiful quality of line. Watch what I'm going to do here. So you see me with an overhand grip, not the underhand. And as I move my line, I could actually come here. And as I'm drawing my line, notice me rotate. So you could actually begin to rotate the pencil in your fingers like this, twisting the line. So it begins to give you all these new, and this is just one place where we're headed. It's not just straight lines, but I could actually thin the line, rotate the line, giving it a little more character, a different quality. And when you go to a museum and you look at a master or any drawing that you like, oh my gosh, what is beautiful drawing. It's not the actual thing, most likely. It's the kinds of lines that were used to draw that thing that you're probably impressed by. Oh, but it looks so beautiful, so realistic. Yep, if you break it down, it's the quality of lines that were put together that is the thing that is attractive. And most times people don't realize it. But here today we're breaking it down. That's what we're hoping to understand. The elements. And there we have it. I will give you guys a minute to stretch the fingers, let that shoulder take a little rest. But highly, highly recommend. as many exercises that you can come up yourself with things that just call it feel awkward or feel strange, and figure out what is the checklist, the mechanisms that is making it so you could really, kind of tame it and make it yours. We're going to do one final one. So on a new sheet of sketching paper, or the next page of your sketchbook, I'm going to have to sharpen my pencil once again. This time is really sharp. So what do I want to do here? So I'm going to split this in half. Got the top, got the bottom. Make it a little more obvious. Go with a little bit of a darker pencil, 8B. So you guys could see the split. There we are. So what are we going to do here? So I'm going to start at the top. Once again, focus on the grip. The key to this exercise, and this is one that is really just beautiful. What I want to do is this. I'm going to go clockwise. So I'm going to follow the direction of the hands of the clock, meaning I'm going to go in this direction. And I'm going to start with a tiny little circle. You can't even see it, but it's there. There it is. Tiny little circle. As small as you can. You can start maybe with a dot. So there's that little circle. What am I going to do? Clockwise, I am going to draw a circle around it. Let's see if you can see it here. There it is. Right there. So I'm going to try to draw concentric circles, following the same center all the way around while maintaining that same grip. Now this is not a spiral. It's a circle. Lift the pencil. Now you could start at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Pay attention to that too. The place you choose to start says a lot. Because if you're starting at the top, that means you're going toward, you're going down, or you're going left, or you're going right, or you're going up. So it says a lot. Start at 12 o'clock. Let's see how that feels. And maybe the next one, start at 6 o'clock. See how that feels. And you're going to try to do as best as you can circles outside of that first one, as close to the last one as possible, and as circular as possible. Yeah, they may begin to get a little eggy or ovally. That's fine. But this motion of drawing, big focus on the grip. That's where you want your focus. Grip, pressure, obviously direction, pace, support. Are you using your knuckle, pinky? No support at all. Your elbow, where is it? Your shoulder, how's it feeling? Are you tilting your head, leaning your head? Oh, that's right, the breathing. How are we doing with the breathing? What other things can you catch? What other things can you identify? As you think it through, I want you to begin to really just feel through it, how it actually feels. And where does it feel better or easier, comfortable? And when and where does it feel like a struggle? And then figuring out why, what could it be? And how do I adjust? As they get a little bit bigger, I'm getting a little bit, or I don't know, a little bit of ease. Now the lines, I want them to be as close to each other as possible without having them go over. But if they do, that's fine. But this is about controlling, in this case, curve, circular lines. And you're doing the full 360. Now I'm having to move my shoulder a little bit kind of in and out, so I feel almost like a little dancing motion. Like my torso is going in, up, and as I go down, it goes back out. But it's not spirals. It's not one continuous line that spirals. It's one circle at a time. And you're going to reach a limit where, okay, I'm getting close to the edge, whether it's the top, bottom, or side. And I'm almost there. And the quality of my line, is it still what I want it to be? Is it getting thick, thin? Is it just getting, don't like it? Well, how do I get it? How do I get that pencil to deliver the line that makes me happy? That makes me go, ooh, yes. That's the kind of line I want. So once we reach the edge, and once you've done probably about 30, 40, 50 circles, and there it is. I reached the top edge. So we got a little closer to the top faster than the bottom. What I'm going to do next is, well, get a reminder. So this was clockwise, so the arrow goes this way. The next exercise would be counterclockwise. So it's the same thing, starting with a tiny little circle that you then follow. And notice that my grip got way shorter immediately. Make it long. How long can you hold the pencil and do these little circles? I'm grabbing it as long as I can. Let's push this up a little bit. No support, no pinky, no knuckle, no elbow, no wrist. One circle at a time, not a spiral. And remember, counterclockwise. If you did this one clockwise, make sure you don't forget it's counterclockwise. And there will be a different feeling to it. Ooh, yeah. It's, I'm beginning to feel like it wobbles. So sometimes it's just the way I see. Because how am I making the decision? How is my hand putting down the line? Well, it's because I see something and I tell my hand, go here, now go there. So it all starts the way we think, the way we feel. I think it's crucial. It shows up in the lines. The way we breathe. It's not a joke, but I can tell when someone's hungry. So everything, you could definitely see when someone's tired. You could see when someone's excited. And the proof is in the lines. And eventually we will reach, I mentioned line, shape, form, value, to develop space and texture. But in the end, it keeps going further and further. What we want to put into our drawings eventually is feeling. So when someone looks at a drawing that you made, they can actually feel, wow, I know what that artist was feeling. I felt that. I feel the same way about butterflies, flowers, whatever it is you're drawing, because you're showing it through your lines. They're so eloquent, it is clear. And there we have it. So just using a 2B pencil and a combination of simple lines, we begin to discover and say hello for the first time, get to know our lines, our style of lines. And the more and more familiar you get with them, it's going to it's going to take a while getting used to the grip, but not giving up on it is going to be crucial. So where do we go from here? We're going to look at pencils, and I mentioned there's so many. Very simple, actually, the numbers and the letters, what it means, which one's light, which one's dark, which one's soft, which one's hard, why would I use it? We move forward from line into shape next week. And then the week after that, we're going to go into form and value so we can put it all together and eventually put together a final piece using all of these drawing techniques and creating something beautiful. So I hope you guys enjoyed it.